We're not going to get a second chance in the game.
Hello, I am Nick Bandstra. I am the defensive coordinator and associate head coach at Elgin High School. I want to thank Coach Alba and Chief Pigskin for the opportunity to talk our 4-4 defense and our cover 3. A little bit of background about our school. We're located in Marion, Ohio, about an hour northwest of Columbus. We are a Division VI football program, the second smallest division in Ohio. We have roughly 130 to 150 boys in our school, 9 through 12. We had 29 players on our roster last year, and prior to last season, our school hadn't had a winning season since 2005. I just finished my second year as defensive coordinator. My first year, we went 0-10. We ran a 4-2-5 defense, allowed close to 50 points a game, and about 2,900 rush yards. After that season, me and my head coach sat down and tried to figure out what is the best way forward to make our kids better, both offensively and defensively. And we kind of came up with the idea, the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. We wanted to focus on the fundamentals. So how can we focus on the fundamentals and be better at the same time? And we kind of turned our 4-2-5 defense into a 4-4 cover 3 defense. We figured cover 3 would adjust to most offensive sets and formations and pass combinations. And a 4-4 front would help us stop the run, puts 8 men in the box, gets us everything tight, so we can force everything back inside and make our opponents throw. This year, with our 4-4 and our cover 3, we dropped our opponents' points per game and our wins down to 23, a little over more than half. And our losses were about 37. We dropped our rush yards by 1,000, down from 2,900 to 1,900, and we ballooned our interceptions from 0 to 18. Kind of the basics of our defense, we are a field boundary defense. Half our defense always goes to the field, half our defense always goes to the boundary, and we use our free safety as an adjuster. We ran one front this year, that's it. I wanted to make it as simple as possible, and I kind of learned from my first year as a defense coordinator that multiple fronts just confuse kids. The simpler you can make it, the better. My focus was, let's get one front that can adjust to most offensive sets, and let's just roll with it. Coverage-wise, we ran cover 3 95% of the time. I ran an inverted cover 2 with our corners in week 8. We'd kind of repped all year, but we didn't really find a great situation to use it. That accounted for about 5% of our coverages. And then our blitz system, which I kind of stole from 3-3, 3-5 coaches, which I'll get into later, is a number system. It's a very simplistic approach to blitzing. As coaches in general, we constantly kind of make it complicated and just think of all these fancy words, and which just makes it really hard for the kids to remember. I think a numbering system is the easiest way to go for our kids. So the first thing I'm going to get into with our 4-4 is our defensive line. Our defensive line, we have 4 defensive linemen. Our defensive linemen are the end, which is our weak side end, who always goes to the boundary. Our nose, who's our backside tackle. And we have a strong side tackle, which we just call our tackle. And we have a strong side end, which we call our anchor. Our 2 exterior defensive linemen, our end, our anchor, have very similar roles. They have the same gap responsibilities, to and away. Our end, our boundary player, is always in a 5 technique. He is always responsible for C-gap when ball comes to him. When ball goes away from him, he is a boot, counter, reverse player. He reads his blocks, and he finds the ball and goes from there. Our anchor has 2 rules. If he has a tight end, he's in a 5 technique over the tackle. If he has a tight end, he is in a 7 technique inside shoulder of the tight end. Either way, he is still a C-gap player. He is boot, counter, reverse. Our linemen react to whatever they see. So for example, the 4 most common blocks we see for our defensive ends are kind of a down and reach, a pull, a base, and a reach 2. For reach away and down, our defensive ends squeeze hard, get our hands on the offensive tackle, either look for a puller or a kick-out guy. If they don't see a pull-out or kick guy, they know automatically they are being read by the quarterback for some sort of option. If they get a pull, they get on the hip of the puller looking into the backfield to find the ball carrier. They also know that if it's that their offensive tackle or tight end pulls, that there's probably going to be somebody trying to down block them that they're to rip through. For a base block, our defensive ends take them up head on, take on half the man. So they want their inside hand in about sternum of the offensive tackle, and they want their other hand on the shoulder. Once they feel the base block, they press, get leverage, and if ball's to them, they rip through. If ball goes away, they're now looking for boot, reverse, and counter. If they get a reach block, which to me, a reach is the hardest thing to teach a defensive end. Their job is you don't want to let the offensive tackle reach you to the sideline. You don't want to keep gaining width, because the more width you gain, the harder it is for our linebackers and our secondary players. You're giving the quarterback more time to throw the ball. Also, by letting them push you to the sideline, you're making your C gap go from about a 3-foot space to from where you started to the sideline. You're making your gap much larger. So we teach our defensive ends to engage the half man. As he tries to reach you, you rip through him, you push with your shoulder hand, you rip under, and you get heel depth and you get to the ball carrier. You force that. If it's a runner, you tackle him. If it's a quarterback, you force him back inside, or you make the sack. For our interior defensive line, our nose is in what we call a 2-eye. A 2-eye for us is inside shoulder of the guard. He is an A-gap player. If the ball comes to him, if he reads something to him. If he reads something away, he is a trail cutback player. Our tackle, our strong side field player, is a 3 technique. He is outside shoulder of the guard. Ball 2, he is a B-gap player. Ball away, he is also, like our nose, a trail cutback player. Typical blocks we see a lot of down pull. So we see our centers down blocking either our 3 technique or our 2-eye very heavily, and our guard pulling inside. We saw a lot of trap and power this year and counter. So what we teach our tackles is second they see their lineman pull, they need to dip their shoulder, rip through, because they know they're going to have the center coming down on them. Get under and get on the hip of the guard and look for the ball carrier in the backfield. For a double team, both for our 2-eye and for our 3 technique, my main thing is if you can't get initial penetration, you go straight for their thighs. You aim right at their thighs and make a pile. I don't want them losing ground. It's something for our younger players very hard to grasp. For our older players, did it very well. Anytime you get a double team, just go straight through their hamstrings. Another common one is either like a base block or down block. It's kind of the same as our defensive ends. You want to fight half a man with half a man. You want to get that man side hand into the sternum, under the neck, and you want to get your outside hand on his shoulder. You want to press, and then once you see find the ball carrier, you rip through, you make a tackle, you secure your gap. For a reach, which we saw led on inside zone and jet plays, it's the same thing as our defensive ends. You don't want them reaching you to the sideline. You don't want to make your gap 20 feet wide. You want to keep your gap a 3-foot surface. As they reach you, you want to press, keep your half-man technique, because you don't want to take a man full body on, and you want to rip through, get heel depth, and then react accordingly to the ball. If you get farther in heel depth, you're also creating a giant gap, so you don't want to get too deep into the backfield. Linebackers. We have 4 linebackers in our system. Our Will and our Spur are our outside linebackers. They are our force players. Our Mike and Sam are our inside linebackers. Our Mike is our boundary player. Our Sam is our field side player. Both of them standard alignment is 30 technique at 4 yards. 30 technique for us is outside shoulder of the guard. Our Mike is a B gap to scrape player. What I mean by scrape is his initial gap is B gap. If his read takes him to the opposite side of the football, he is now scraping for an open hole, open window as he gains ground. We don't want our scrape to be flat. We want to gain ground, get to the line of scrimmage. One thing we always teach our linebackers is be wrong to the run. We are worried about the run first. My first year, we couldn't stop the run. And from what I've learned in high school football, if you can't stop the run, you can't win football games. If you stop the run, you have a very good chance of competing and winning a lot of football games. As I was saying, our Mike is our B gap to scrape player. Our Sam is an A gap to scrape player. He is downhill A gap. If ball goes away, he scrapes over top looking for an open hole, open window. The only time our linebackers change their alignment is versus trips. We have a line and ram call, tells our linebackers to bump to the trips. So if the trips is to the left of them, they make a line call. If they have trips to the right of them, they make a ram call. And all that tells our two inside linebackers is we're going to bump exactly one man over. So if I'm on the outside shoulder of the guard and bumping right, I'm going to bump to the outside shoulder of the tackle and now be in a 50 technique. My other linebacker is going to bump into a 10 technique into the inside shoulder of the center. All of our run fits are still the same. They both are still A and B gap players. And a lot of times, depending if it's, say, trips to the boundary, it actually puts our players in a better position for their run fits. It's not as big of an angle as you see on your screen. So some of our block reactions for our linebackers. I think reach blocks for inside linebackers are the hardest thing to teach, because if you see a reach block, you're going to get one of two things. You can either get pass or run, because a lot of teams I see, they don't do your typical drop back slide protection. A lot of their protection is slide game for sprint out, or slide game to fake like an inside zone, or for a boot to go the opposite way with a fullback kicking out the end man. So one of the things we teach our linebackers, you see some sort of reach block, you start coming downhill and be wrong to the run, but if your eyes now need to transition to the backfield, and if you see pass, you need to plant yourself on the ground and get depth. If you're already at the line of scrimmage, just keep going, but if you're not there yet, you need to get depth. Our second block on the screen is just typical kick slide protection. That's automatic. We're going to key step. Once we read it, we're going to turn and drop. And I'll go a little more of our drops later when I get into pass coverage. For our third picture, we have a simple down pull scheme, typical power trap scheme. We teach our linebackers, if you see down, you fill your gap now. The ball is coming towards you. They are trying to make a wall and trying to seal you off. So you want to hit right off the heels of that guard. You want to fill that gap. And if you see that pulling guard coming, you're going to blow that up. The linebacker to the pulling guard, he sees the pull, he's getting downhill, and he's running, looking for an open window for penetration to make a tackle. And then another one we saw very commonly this year, actually we have a team on our schedule who does nothing but base block, where they run an outside or inside run, they base block. So for our linebackers, a base block equals fill my gap now. But also as you fill, you need to realize that you need to transition your eyes just in case it's a pass. Because we see a lot of teams that base block, or their reaches or their kick slides look like base blocks. We're going to be wrong to the run first. We're going to get downhill. But our eyes, second we read that, now need to transition to the backfield and see either a near back or the quarterback so we can react accordingly. Our outside linebackers, as I said, are our will and our spur. Our spur is our strong side. Outside linebacker, our will is our weak side linebacker. They probably have the most complex alignment rules of any of our players. First of all, they are decap force players. As I said, we run cover 3. They are our flat players, so they are our force players. Nothing is supposed to get outside of them. If ball goes away, our linebackers fold back into the box looking for cutback. Cutback is one of the things that have hurt me and our team the most over the past 2 years. Even hurt us a little bit this year, especially as players got downfield. The cutback, it can be a very, very harmful thing, especially if your pursuit is not always where it needs to be. So as our linebackers, they see ball go away, once they read their block, say they get reach away, they need to start squeezing into the box just in case they get a cutback back inside so they can make a tackle at 2 to 3 yards instead of trying to get upfield and chasing from behind. And when that cutback happens, it turns into an 80-yard run. So our rules for our outside backers: if they have one split out receiver not attached to the line of scrimmage, they are 2 yards outside, 4 yards deep of the end-man line of scrimmage. If they have 2 split receivers not attached to the line, they apex the end man, whether it's a tight end or a tackle, and the number 2 at 4 yards depth. If they have 3 split receivers in a trip set, they apex number 2 and 3 at 4 yards. It doesn't sound very complicated, but for some high school kids, it's, okay, this is trips, but there's not 3 split out receivers. It sometimes makes them think. So if we install all these rules day one, and we just rep them over and over again. So, okay, I got 1, I'm tight. I got 2, I'm split out a little bit, breaking distance. If I got 3, okay, I'm gonna be out a little wider. Now, also they need to use some common sense. If trips is all the way past the hash and all out by the numbers, I'm not going to apex 2 and 3. I'm going now kind of apex 3 and the end man line of scrimmage. You don't want to let them take you too far out of the formation. Again, we want to stop the run first. So that is our focus. Now some of our block reactions. Our outside linebackers have really about 4 blocks they truly need to worry about. 5 if you count a pull for a counter. But that's not really high on our priority list because, again, that's just mostly a fold back in. Our 2 main blocks on the first one is a down or a base block. Kind of one of our easier reads for our linebacker. They see tackle or tight end down block, say our defensive end or our 3 technique. They get to the line of scrimmage now. I don't want them too far upfield because we had several times this year where if they got too far upfield, they're just creating a crease. Yes, that player's going to cut back in, but you still have a wide enough hole where they slightly cut back in and then fold back out. You want to squeeze, you want to get upfield and squeeze at the line of scrimmage. You don't want to get past heel depth. A lot of times, by the time you get there, your ball carrier will be there for you to make a play. The other thing they got to realize, if they see a down, which is kind of hard to see from end man, it takes a lot of reps, that they probably don't have a kick out coming towards them. Some sort of puller for like a counter scheme or a kick out or lead blocker for some sort of jet. The second block reaction you see there is a reach. A lot of times, especially towards our boundary, you'll get a reach block to run jet or inside zone or outside zone. But the thing, as I said earlier, a reach block can also be a pass because a lot of the teams we see run slide protection. So our linebackers need to instantly train their eyes to, okay, he is reaching, he is stepping wide and running towards the sideline. I need to now transition my eyes to the backfield. Okay, I have a player running towards me and the ball is not high, so I need to attack, be aggressive, force that ball back in or make the tackle. If it's a quarterback with ball high, I need to now get flats, get under 1 or 2. And then our third picture is just a normal kick slide. Our linebackers will key step, see the kick slide, and they will get flat going straight to their flats. And you see a couple notes on there. You have to train your linebackers, especially if you have a lot of those leagues where you don't have necessarily the greatest blocking that's easy to read. You want to teach them end man to near back, end man to near back. As I've said, especially for those reach blocks, okay, I'm getting a reach, I'm going to start getting downhill, but now I need to see where that near back is. And then again, as I mentioned on the previous slide, if it flows away, like reach away, or you get like a base block and you see the backfield, everybody going away, I now need to fold in behind my defensive line and look for the cutback. We have 3 defensive backs. We have a boundary corner, a field corner, and a free safety. All of them are secondary run support players for us. All of them are 8 to 10 yards off the football. Our field corner is always to the field. He's a secondary run support player. Our boundary corner is the same. A secondary run support player, he is always to the boundary. They both have the exact same rules. They play a divider technique. So if our number 1 split out receiver is on or inside the numbers, I'm going to play 2 yards outside, 8 yards deep, but I don't want to cross the numbers. So if he's just on that edge and that 2 yards would put me outside, just cheat back in a little bit. We teach our defensive backs to know where is your help. Okay, if we're already all past the numbers, I help from the sideline. They're taking themselves out of to run anything outside and deep. I have help from the sideline. I don't have help from inside because I'm so far away from my outside linebacker and my free safety. Now, in the opposite effect, if they are inside the numbers, I have help from my outside linebacker and my free safety. They are close by. So now I need to take an outside leverage point of view because the sideline's not as close to take away any like corner or deep outside route. So if he's inside or on, we're outside of him. If he's outside, we are inside of him. Very simple rules. The only thing that breaks this rule is if we get just a nub tight end or a tight end wing set, then we automatically go, we're 2 yards outside, 8 yards deep of whoever the end man is. Whether it be a tight end. If that wing's real tight, we can count him, especially for a lot of those teams that run buck sweep to get their wing real tight and have them down block and end. We're 2 yards outside, 8 yards deep. And if they want to crack one of our players, With that wing, we can just replace. Our free safety, he is an alley support player, but due to some sets, he's not always going to be able to support the alley on both sides. So he is, to us, a secondary run support. His primary responsibility is not to help in the run. His general alignment rules, if it's not a trip set, he's going to apex the number 1 receivers. So if they're both extra out wide to the numbers that you see on your screen, he's essentially in the middle of the field. If one of those receivers was, say 2 receiver sets was tight by the hash, he would kick out in apex the one on that side and the one out by his numbers and split the difference. So he'd be cheated more towards the hash to one side. If we get trips, he is inside shoulder of the number 3. You can cheat him in a little bit more than that, but we had him inside shoulder number 3 to help take away any vertical route by that number 3 receivers. We count receivers outside in, so the most inside receiver is number 3. We want him to take away a vertical route. Now, one of the other major rules for our free safety is he can never cross the hash. No matter what offensive formation they're in, do not cross the hash. Now they're taking you too wide, and you've put yourself in a bad position not only for run support, but for pass help. And with your primary responsibility being deep middle of the field, you have to maintain leverage on the inside. So we teach him never cross the hash. He's mostly in the middle of the field unless we get a trip set. Then he's going to kick over to inside shoulder of the number 3 receiver and read his route combinations from there. All right, so when we add all this together, we have what we call base. Base, to a lot of coaches, will just be a standard 4-4, 4-2-5 over front. As you see on our screen, if we get pro to the field, this is what it looks like. Our strong side end is in a 7 technique. Our linebackers in 30s. Our 2 outside linebackers are 2x4. My free safety is in the middle of the field. And my 2 outside players, our corners, are in our divider techniques. If that guy's inside the numbers, we're going to play outside. If he's outside numbers, we're going to play inside of them. So here's what we do if we got pro to the boundary. If we get pro to the boundary, as you see, our end stays in a 5 technique. Our strong end, our anchor, bumps down to a 5. Our will widens out, but is still 2x4. He's just not 2x4 on tight end. A lot of our alignment doesn't change. It just changes leverage. I've had coaches ask me, well, why don't you put him in a 7-2? Because I wanted to make it as simple as possible. And also, my will linebacker is my worst of my 4 linebackers. Because a lot of teams we see don't attack the boundary a lot. They attack the field. They set their formations to the field 70-80% of the time. They run to the field 60 to 70% of the time. So I can afford to put my worst linebacker at will. And by having my end in a 5 technique, if he down blocks my end, it's a clear, easy reach. So, oh, I'm getting some sort of run scheme towards us, probably a power or counter play since they just did a down. And if they ever start attacking my backside, I usually put my best defensive lineman at end, and they quickly start attacking the field again. Doubles. Doubles will kind of look like a 4-2-5. We still keep 1 high. We don't put 2 high. As you see, our outside linebackers just apex the number 2 and in-man line of scrimmage. Farther they go, farther we widen out. But after a certain point, we tell them if they get too wide to where both of them are outside by the numbers, we just tell them stop splitting the difference, cheat in a little bit. If you're late to the flats, you're late to the flats. I've yet to meet a coach who just throws flats all the way down the field. I've learned in my 7 years as a football coach, offensive coordinators are greedy. They are not going to run hitches all the way down the field. And even if they do, once they get to the 5, my corners are no longer at 8 yards. And if you still want to run a hitch then, and I take a chance I'm going to intercept it, good luck. And again, for doubles, as you see, our free safeties slightly cheated one way because one receiver is slightly wider than the other. Our corners are playing their divider technique. Everybody has a good leverage point. We're good for the run, which is our main priority, and we can rally to any outside pass as needed. Trips. Here's our standard look versus trips. As you see, we've bumped our inside linebackers to where we have a 10 and a 50 technique. Our will is backside is still in his 2x4 alignment. Our spur is apexing the number 2, number 3 receiver to that side. Our free safety has cheated over. He is no longer in the middle of the field. He's just now slightly outside the hash, and he's got good leverage in case there's some sort of deep seam down the middle or post route or deep slant. And then double tight ends. Double tight ends is something I haven't gone over. Versus a 2 tight end set, we are almost a 6-2. We make a heavy call versus any double tight end set. All that tells our players, it tells our outside linebackers that they can cheat up to pretty much a little bit outside the tight ends, at about 1 to 2 yards depth. And now they're going to read the end man to that backfield. They are in a good leverage point to force anything back inside. Our inside linebackers are allowed to cheat up a little bit. They know to expect heavy run. There's not really much outside of boot that can harm them in the pass. Our corners will cheat down as well. Their read is they only have 2 immediate vertical threats in this double tight end situation that you see on your screen. Our free safety also cheats down to give us a little extra run support, because a lot of teams we see that run this double tights formation like to run A and B gap, and gives us an extra defender to the ball. So next is our cover 3. Our cover 3, as I said, is our base coverage. We ran it 95% of the time. Is your standard 3 deep, 4 under. So basics of our cover 3, as you see on our screen, our outside linebackers are flat players. Now, when I say they're flat players, they will key step, they will read, they see pass, and they are immediately going to turn their whole body and run straight down the line to the flats. I don't want them gaining depth. I want them to turn. They don't need to look at the quarterback. They are looking for receivers going in their area. They want to see, okay, there's a receiver, I'm going to run to him. If nobody settles in the area, once they get almost to the numbers, they will flip their bodies around and look for somebody coming in their direction. But we had a couple times this year where they just ran there, and as they turned, because they hit their man, and the ball just bounced right off their hands. We had one other time where it just bounced off one of our linebackers' helmet, actually. If that happens, we've won. You now have thrown an incomplete pass, and guess what? It is now 2nd and 10, 3rd and 10. We win. I don't necessarily need an interception every time, but I want to take away your receivers. If you don't have anybody to throw to, I'm going to get a sack, or you're going to force a throw, and it's going to be an interception. Our inside linebackers are hook to curl players. They do the same thing. They will key step. Second they repass, they will turn their bodies and look straight at the receivers to their side of the field. They are looking usually 2 to 1. If they have a trip set 3 to 2, they're looking for guys to cross their area of the field. Their area is pretty much from over the guard to just slightly outside the hash. Again, if they don't see anybody, they're just going to flip, turn, and look for somebody the opposite way. If they see somebody in their zone, they're going to latch up to them and get underneath them. There's another time, which you'll see on film here in a minute. I think it's about probably the second play we're going to see. My inside linebacker sees a guy, flips around, and had that ball been thrown on target, he would have made the interception instead of bouncing off my defender's hand. Our corners versus any typical set are outside thirds. They read 2 by 1. The reason we read 2 by 1 is because we want to take away 4 verts. Anytime I say the word cover 3 to an offensive football coach, their immediate response is 4 verts. Well, my response to your 4 verts is, I want to see you throw the 4 verts. Because not many high school kids can throw the outside 4 vert, and if they do, they're probably pretty special. I want to take away that inside seam guy. So my corners, if they see 2 go vertical, they are going to squeeze that number 2, split the difference, cheat slightly to the number 2 receiver. And if you throw that number 1 receiver, which I've yet to see a high school quarterback do in my 2 years as a defensive coordinator, he's going to zone turn and run and rally, and probably either, if that ball actually gets there, he will make the tackle. If it doesn't, he's probably going to swat, pick, or have a breakup. Our free safety versus pretty much anything but trips uses a peripheral to see the 2 twos, and he's looking at the quarterback, and he's going to break on the ball. Second, that quarterback turns his shoulders and about to go, he turns and goes. He is essentially almost a rubber. Not many teams in our league ran post routes, so he pretty much became a free dropper, free middle of the field extra player who could help with digs, who could help with the verticals on the outside, or a deep slant. Now, if we get trips, it's going to try to slightly change our cover 3, but to our kids, it's still cover 3 because we teach rules. The only rule it really changes is our free safety. Our free safety sees trips, He now reads 3 to 2 because we want to take away that vertical route by the number 3 down the middle of the field first. If 3 goes something short inside or outside, now his eyes are going to go to number 2 and take away his vertical to help our corner. A lot of times, instead of 4 verts, we saw a lot of flood this year. So when that number 3 receiver just runs that short little arrow flat route, his eyes now go to 2. Second, that vertical player goes out, takes that 10 to 15 yard out. Now I have my free safety on his hip to make a play on the flood. Our corners still read 2 to 1. So if number 1 still runs a short route and 2 runs a vertical, he's got number 2. They both run vertical. He still squeezes the 2, forcing that long throw to the outside. The only other players it really changes is our backside inside linebacker away from the trips. He now needs to know, okay, I have 3 receivers to this side and I have 1 receiver to this side. I need to open up towards the trips. I am now a middle hole player, middle of the field underneath. And then our backside outside linebacker will switch to a hook curl player. Really what we tell him is he needs to get under the number 1 receiver to his side. That number 1 receiver goes vertical. We're going to hook up and look to see if there's any back out of the backfield. In essence, we've turned our cover 3 into a quarter half without telling our kids. We keep that simple mentality. We've taught rules to, okay, if I get 3 receivers, I do this, instead of trying to teach a whole different coverage and a whole different terminology and try to confuse the kids. It's, okay, I just got to bump out a little bit more. I still have the same responsibilities, or I got to slightly adjust here. And then the last thing we're going to go over is our blitz package. Our blitz package I stole from some 3-3, 3-5 coaches. We number our linebackers. Our linebackers are numbered 1 through 4. We have a Will, who is 1, our Mike is 2, our Sam is 3, and our Spur is a number 4. When I call their number, they blitz the gap they're normally responsible for. So our Will and Spur will blitz D gap. Our Mike will blitz B gap, and our Sam will blitz A gap. The great thing about this system is you teach the 1 through 4 numbers of the kids, and then you can start sending 6, 7 man pressures by saying, okay, they know 1, they know 2, 3, and 4. Now I can call, here's 12, here's 13, here's 24. The only thing you have to really teach is how this affects your pass coverage. It doesn't change anything for their blitzing. It makes it very simple. It's all they need to know is they need to know their numbers. This is probably about 80 to 95% of our blitz package. We have a one-er blitz, which is a psycho blitz, which sends all 8 front defenders. We did that a lot on 2-point conversions, which made us very successful on 2-point defense. I think it was like 15 to 20% was the success rate of our opponents. We also have an X blitz, which tells our Sam and Mike the cross gaps. So our Sam will be a B gap blitzer, and our Mike will be an A gap blitzer. But the 1 through 4 system is probably 80+% of our system. Now, when I say it affects our coverage, this is how it affects our coverage. Say I call number 1 blitz. Our Mike now needs to know I now have flats. We don't have a flat defender now, so now I need to go. Our Sam then needs to know, okay, I don't have another defender in the middle hook the curl area. I now need to go in the middle. And our Spur, it doesn't affect any because it's on the complete other side of the football. This is something you have to rep heavily. If you don't rep it heavily, they will make mistakes. We had a lot of mistakes early on in our 7-on-7s and our 3 scrimmages to where we just had voided zones. And I want to do as much as possible when I bring 5-man pressures not to have a voided zone. So if I call a 1, 2, 3, or 4, our linebackers need to know how that affects them. If I call 1, my Mike now has flats, my Sam now has deep middle. If I say call a 3, the only one that affects is our Mike. He now is a middle hole dropper, and our Sam is the blitzer, and our 2 outside guys are the flats. So our outside blitzes affect our inside blitzes more. Our outside blitzes tell the next 2 nearest backers that 1 now needs flats, 1 has the middle. If it's just an inside blitzer, it just affects the other inside linebacker. He's now a hole dropper instead of a hook to curl defender. Now if we send, say, a double inside 6-man pressure, we will have voided zones because we don't have man coverage. I did not run man coverage this year. We tried it in the summer. I didn't have the kids for it. So in this instance, if I say call it a 23 blitz both my inside linebackers. Our 2 outside guys are now hooked to curl. So they will gain a little bit of depth on the blitz as I'm blitzing. and then go to their flats. We were leaving the middle of the field open. That's part of the reason why I ran an had an inverted cover 2 installed. Again, we didn't run a lot because we saw a lot of 2x2 sets, and I didn't feel comfortable with possible 4 verts versus cover 2 as I am with a cover 3 setting. So next, let's go to some film. This is our first play of the season. This opponent and the 2 scrimmage tapes we got from them only ran trap. That's the only run play they had ran in 2 scrimmages. That's all we saw. So for my mentality, I'm going to run a 3 blitz. I'm going to run some sort of inside blitz. I'm going to make it a problem for you to run trap. I'm going to put the pressure on you immediately. So play 1 of the season, they come out 2x2. All my defenders are lying correctly. Some of our stances aren't the prettiest, obviously. You can see my free safety, who's kind of in a square stance instead of having a foot back. Something we kind of worked on all season, but I have a 3 blitz on. I'm going to bring my Sam Blacker, and I'm going to put pressure on this offense. So as you see, and I'm going to show you in slow motion first before we go full speed, they run trap away from my blitz. As they run trap away from my blitz, they have nobody to block my linebacker, and he will get through clear. As you see, my 3 technique on the backside, they try to down block him. Now, he does a decent job of engaging, but he doesn't rip well, and that's something we got better at as the season went on. But he will also disengage off the center and make a play from the backside. So we have our backside 3 technique of the play, and my backside linebacker who's blitzing make a 1-yard loss and tackle. Here it is in full speed. That's a great way to start the season. Next play. This is actually the play I was telling you about earlier, about getting under trips and getting underneath the defenders instead of staring at the quarterback. So as you see, they gave trips to the field, to the wide side. My linebackers have bumped over. My outside linebackers apex in 2 and 3. My free safety is head up instead of inside, which is not good, but something we improved on as the season went. As you'll see in slow motion, they're going to run a hitch and 2 slants and try to take care of what they think is an open area, but both our linebackers key step, they rotate towards the trips and they get under defenders. He tries to throw to the number 3 receiver, and my backside inside linebacker is right underneath it, and it tips right off his hand. As you'll see, my front side inside linebacker gets under 2, my outside linebacker gets under 1, and I have my DBs over top. So in full motion, full speed, see it? And had that ball been thrown right on the money, that would have been a pick to start off play 2 of the year. But instead, the ball is a little thrown behind, and it bounces right off his hand. We jump to later in the game. They are going to run a hitch vert concept on us. I believe they run it to the boundary, nope, to the field. But look again, our flats are covered. We take away that short hitch with our outside linebacker. We're blitzing with one of our inside backers, putting pressure on the quarterback. Our backside inside linebacker rotates the wrong way. As I said, something you have to constantly rep as the season on. He's got to drop to the middle of the field, not drop and hook the curl. But as you look back at the top of the screen, my corner sees a hitch and a vert. He jumps the vertical route and gets a pick. And then we have a wall of blockers from him. We just get shoelace tackled. And again, he sees 2 get vertical. His job is to squeeze. As you see, getting vertical, squeeze, and ball's released and pick. So full speed. And he squeezes well, makes a pick. He just got shoelace tackle. Had a wall of defenders blocking in front of him. Next, we jump to, I believe it's week 5, a game we lost badly to a very good, I believe they were a state quarterfinal team in Lehman Catholic. They ran a lot of vert arrow against us. And like I said, teams aren't just going to run hitches and flat routes all the way down the field. They wouldn't do that either. They ran vert arrow about 2-3 plays in a row, and then they'd go back to their power read, or they'd take the deep shot. So as you see, 2x2 set. Everybody's in good position. The only player on my defense who got 2 players really not doing their job, I got 23 blitz on. Well, my inside linebackers, instead of blitzing and helping us get pressure, decides to start hopping and staring. My free safety tries to jump an underneath route for no reason at all. That's a freshman. You take your pains as you go with your freshman. But as you see, they ran vert arrow 2 plays in a row before this, throwing the flats. Now he takes his deep shot, overthrows it, and we drop an interception in the end zone. But again, my corner read 2-1. He sees 2 go out on a short route. He can now safely take that 1 vertical. And both sides, both my corners did that. My top corner zone turns pretty well up there. Okay, we jump to, I think, week 7. You're going to see a quick screen. Screens are something, had teams attacked us properly with them, probably could have been a vulnerability because you can wall off our linebacker and with our DB being so deep. But as the season went on, our pursuit and our hustle from our outside linebackers got pretty good to where a lot of teams would try it early and then give up on it. So as you see, he reads pass and my linebacker goes. My corner comes downhill pretty good because he sees the inside receiver looking for somebody to stock block, kind of gives a lazy effort. And we get downhill immediately. Incomplete pass. Got good pursuit by my linebacker, my corner. My inside linebacker also doesn't do a half bad job. My defensive end needs to get off his block a little quicker once he sees a quick screen. Full speed. Step, release. My linebacker is there to make the play. Had he caught that, it's maybe a 2-yard gain. And again, I will take short, flat routes all day long. You're not going to do it all the way down the field. Next, here's something kind of a change-up for us. Something I haven't really gone over yet. If I sent my backside outside linebacker and they have trips to the field, so backside we have a man concept going. Yes, I did say earlier that we didn't run man. Well, I didn't run man across the board ever because I didn't have inside or outside linebackers that I thought could handle it or do it sufficiently. But our corners, I know they could play man against all but maybe probably 2 teams we saw last year. So if we sent that outside linebacker and it is to the boundary, you have 1 receiver to your side, you're now locked up. You can cheat up a couple yards and you're just going to read one. Wherever one goes, you go. So as you see, again, these teams that run hitches, try to run hitches and take advantage and try to get an easy 5 yards. Well, because I'm now in man coverage, because I'm sending my backer trying to get pressure, trying to get my outside linebacker in the game involved, he hop steps like he's going to drop deep, and he jumps that hitch and returns it for a touchdown. That's pick 6. It's an easy way. We still running cover 3 of the field. We just got a little bit man concept to the boundary. So as you'll see, my linebacker at the top of the screen does not do a good job getting the flats. He kind of hop steps. My free safety is kind of lazy in the middle of the field. But backside, they want to just turn and try to throw a quick, easy ball. We're going to take advantage of you. We're going to bring pressure, and we're going to play a little bit one-on-one man if you're just going to put 1 receiver out there. All right. Same game. They're going to try to run trap out of the shotgun. Our end does not do a very good job at forcing us back inside. Last year, we were a box team, so we wanted to force everything back inside, force you back inside, take away your outside runs. And so, but even with him not forcing it back inside as he should and take it on the way he should, he collides, bumps, and starts wrapping our outside linebacker. Gets a pretty good read with the offensive line trying to go down and upfield. And he comes down and fills, and we got 2-on-1 situation for a tackle. You can also look backside. I talked earlier about If we see that puller, we're going to rip and get on the heels and that butt of that guard for a defensive tackle. Well, right there, he rips through. He gets on the heels of his guard, and he finds ball, and he's putting pressure, making that running back bounce wider than he needs to go. It's a 3-yard loss. All right, 4 verts. As I said, I will dare somebody to throw 4 verts. Verse cover 3. I don't care. It does not bother me. That's the common offense coordinator. 4 verts, 4 verts. Well, if you don't have that quarterback that can throw the 4 verts, put the good touch on it, I'm not worried about it. The only time I'm worried about it is if my DB's eyes are wrong. We preach constantly, especially with having a freshman at free safety most of the season, eyes are right, eyes are right. Are your eyes right? So as you see, we have a trip set. They're going to run 4 verts. My free safety should look at 3 to 2. Second, he sees 3 run a vertical, he is with now number 3. Our corner will take care of 2 and 1. He will squeeze the 2 and play it. But when your eyes are wrong and we're staring and we're not sure and we cheat towards number 2 and 3 is open down the middle of the field with my linebackers chase underneath, it's a 24-yard pass completion. It's not what we want. But that's not because of the cover 3. That's because his eyes were wrong. If his eyes are wrong, I don't care what coverage you're playing, you're going to have problems. My linebackers do a decent job getting underneath and a good rotation by my linebackers. My only complaint is my far inside linebacker is just a little too wide, and he should have kept going past 3 to number 2 because our backside inside linebacker, our Mike, will get underneath that number 3. But outside that, a decent job. My outside linebacker needs to get a little quicker read and get in the flats. Second, he doesn't see anybody. He needs to get a little bit more depth. But as you see, my corner does a very good job splitting the 2 number 2s. He's over top of them. He's in good position to make the play. Fortunately, my free safety didn't read it right. Okay. Well, here's the same game. 4 verts. They're now 2 by 2. And they're going to try to run 4 verts again. This team, I will say, did very good well at attacking their cover 3. They ran a lot of dig by 1, vertical by number 2 to take our corner out of it and find some open holes. They ran some flood and some 4 verts on us. They did things that should hurt our cover 3, but they just couldn't do it consistently enough, and our rules and our eyes are what kind of made sure that we did what we needed to do throughout the game. So as you see, towards late in the game, they're trying to score. They're going to run 4 verts. They throw that 4 vert to the inside guy. My corner squeezes it, and again, another dropped interception. That kid probably had 8 to 10 dropped interceptions this year. He recorded 7. Most of them were before week 5 or 6. The last couple games, he had about 1, maybe 2. He all of a sudden just got bad hands. I heard a lot of, I'll get it in the game, coach, when he dropped him in practice, and he wouldn't get him in the game. And that's where I look at him like, that's why you need to work on that. So going back to our 4 verts, you won't run it, we'll squeeze number 2, make you throw 1. If you don't want to throw 1, I'm going to squeeze 2 and make a play on the ball. My free safety needs to get a little better effort of getting there because he could have made a play on that ball had he turned and ran the second he saw that quarterback open up. Because they play action, I got a lazy back pedal by my free safety. Second that quarterback turns and starts to release, he needed to turn and go full speed. And he would have probably been there to help make the ball. He probably could have got that, maybe a tip, who knows. But that's, again, there right there, why 4 verts doesn't bother me if your eyes are right. If your eyes are wrong, there's nothing you can do about it. All right. Here is some double tights with 1 split out receiver. Again, a heavy situation. We're almost in a 6-2. We've cheated up a little bit. My inside linebackers cheated up. For my corner out there, it's essentially 1-on-1 man. That's all he's worried about. As I said, if we got a split receiver and we got a tight formation like that, or we got blitz on, that's our focus. I've tightened up my free safety. they're going to run power G to the field, to the right side. They turn and run power G. We force it back inside. They get a 3-yard gain. But as you look further into it, now I can tell you immediately, my backside Mike linebacker, his eyes are wrong, because his read gave him a base double team block. That should tell him to start filling, then as his eyes transitioning it downfield. Instead, second that backfield flow goes that way, he is gone. Now, I will say, because he did do that, he put him in a good position to make a play. And something I was talking earlier with the All Balls is kids will make mistakes and then somehow still make a play. Now, your first instinct shouldn't be to yell at them. First thing is, good job, but here you need to do this, this, this. You still would have gotten there because your eyes transition, but you can't skip that first step. Because in other plays, how they ran some sort of counter scheme there, he would have put himself in a really bad position. They will ran some sort of split flow backfield. So looking front side, my play side tackle does not do a good job. He just tries the gap charge. And instead of reacting to that pull, by gap charging, he just gets washed down the field. Luckily, we have a good defensive end to that side, and our linebackers flow the ball pretty good. My outside linebacker forces back in. My end eventually gets off his block a little late, but he still gets off it, puts himself in a good position. My play side linebacker does a good job reading his guard and finding the open window to make a play. He just needs to finish his tackle. He didn't wrap up, but luckily that slowed him down a little bit. And we're there to make a play for just a 3-yard gain. I will take 3 yards. That means you have to go for it on 4th down. All right. I think this is week 9. We got trips, 4-vert set. They have trips into the boundary. Something we didn't see a lot this year. A lot of teams in our league and on our schedule, they run other formations to the field. But again, our free safety hasn't crossed the hash. Our linebacker has, because of the shortened part of the field, he's still kind of apexing 2 and 3, but it's more heads up on 3. Our cornerback did break his rule. You can see he's outside numbers slightly. He needs to cheat back in. The sideline is his friend. Down here, my corner has improper leverage. The guy is inside the numbers, so he's inside. I have a linebacker underneath the help. He can go outside more. Now, does he necessarily, because of how far in he is, does he need to be super outside? No. I mean, he can cheat that down to 1/8. But as you see on your screen, they're going to run 4 verts again. We get clear pass read, and by week 9, we're doing pretty good at this. As you see, both my linebackers turn, inside linebackers turn and open to the trips. They're getting underneath the receivers. I will say, instead of my near inside linebacker getting underneath 2, he gets underneath 3. But because it's to the short side of the field, my Mike linebacker can make him right by getting, my Sam linebacker can make him right by getting underneath 2. Our corners and safeties stay over top of it. My safety needs a little bit better effort on his drop and his alignment as they're getting depth. But as you see, we're getting underneath everybody. My corner is starting to split because he sees both of them being vertical. And it's a high throw. My backside inside linebacker picks it. His only interception on the season, and he gets us a nice return back up the field. All right, now I'm going to show you our last 4 plays of the season. This is week 10. We are 7-2 coming in this game, playing I believe a 4-5 team. We are already eliminated from the playoffs. We cannot make the playoffs. We are mathematically eliminated. The best we can do is finish 9th. Top 8 get in. The team we're playing is a division smaller than us. They are D7. They beat us, they're in. So there's about 3 minutes left on the clock. We are down 21-14. We have 1 or 2 timeouts left. We need a stop. Well, they are a wing T team. They run a lot of two tights, especially in this game with the weather. It just poured the whole game. The scoreboard didn't work half the game, made weird noises. We thought we were going to catch on fire. So as you see, the middle field's muddy. There's no traction. Play one, they run dive. And they just run fullback dive. He turns, opens. We've made our heavy call. We're essentially in a 6-2. My linebackers have cheated up. One of my corners is cheated up. The other one's still deep. My free safety is cheated up a little bit. We read run and we get downhill and we fill. Now I will say our 2 inside linebackers do get blocked. But because they're getting blocked, I have D linemen that are ripping off and are free. So as you see, they run dive. They have a little miscommunication because of the weather. And my end and play side tackle, react, rip. My play side tackle makes a pile because of the double team, and they gain 1 yard. We're already where we want to be. It is now 2nd and 9. We are in a good position. Now they're going to run power. They were not a big, heavy buck sweep wing T team. They ran power, trap. They had a wing sweep that they ran very heavily, rocket, jet, some play action, and some flat back trap. So we figured they're either going to run trap or power here. Again, now they got 3 backs in the backfield. The only thing they've shown out of this is power and trap. We know what's coming. We are tight, and we are ready to go. Problem is, my outside linebacker gets a little too far upfield. They kick him out. We have good pressure on the inside, but because he's come too far in and too far upfield, their running back can now bounce outside. Luckily, my freshman Mike linebacker has pretty much the game of his life. Best game all season. He reads the pull perfectly from the backside, scrapes to an open window, sees the open window. My end gets off his tackle, and we make a tackle 7 yards down the field. Not where we want to be. We call a timeout after this play. It is 3rd and 2. They are going to run power again. And at that point, I'm just telling our guys, it's up to you. Do you want this or not? We're going to play base defense. I trust you to be right. So we're going to line up. We're going to make a heavy check because they're going to go in 2 tight ends, and they're going to run power. Same 3-back set. We're tight. They're trying to kill the clock as much as they can. They're looking for a first down. Everybody's tight to the line of scrimmage. Everybody's within 5 to 6 yards of the ball. And you're going to see we know they're going to run, and we just go. My senior Sam linebacker, who's also had probably the best game of the season. To me, this was even though we've already allowed 21 points, this is the best defensive game we played all season. And I can say that with 100% confidence. We played our best game of the season. We went. And because of some call errors on my side, we allowed them to score 21 points. Because I got overly aggressive. Not because our kids, who 9 out of the 12 on defense, our seniors, played their butts off and helped turn around this year from going 0-10 the prior year to a 7-win football team this year. So they run power. And my linebacker goes. And he just destroys that pulling guard. That quarterback slips, and we just tackle essentially the guard into the quarterback. They lose 3 yards. He just goes. We read run. We got penetration. Had that quarterback not slipped, even if we hadn't blown up the guard, I already have on the snap of the ball 1, 2, 3, 4, about to be 5 players on their side of the line of scrimmage. We are going to win that football play, and that's just because of grit and will. They're going to kick out our outside linebacker. They're probably going to kick him out again. He's in a bad position again. He's too far inside. He's not forcing stuff back inside. But because my linebacker went like a bat out of hell, he destroyed that guard and stopped the power play. And here's our final play of the season. Neither one of us really punted this game. We did both teams punted once or twice, but because of the weather, neither one of us punted. So we're in about the 50-yard line, middle of the field. We're now out of timeouts. We just called a timeout. It is 4th and 5, about 6. I just looked straight at our guys at timeout. I was like, get some water. And it's on you. It comes down to will. Do you want this or not? And they're going to run the ball again. They're not going to try to pass. The only pass they've been able to complete all day is boot, and it's their fullback to the flat. That's the only pass all day. The weather's too bad to throw. We know it's too bad to throw. We're in our heavy set. Our inside linebackers are about a yard off the ball, and we're coming. They run power again, and like I talked earlier, here's that perfect dip your shoulder, past that down block on the pull and the down, and my nose gets right on the butt, disrupting the guard. And play side, their kickouts don't get there. They don't block my end. And we are there to make a 4-yard loss in the play. We do our job on defense. We improved greatly from the year before just by simplifying and going back to the fundamentals. Unfortunately, we did not win this game. We stopped them. We get the ball back. There's about a minute 30 left. We start driving down the field, and on a screenplay, we throw a pick six. We lose the game 28-14. But from the year before to this year, we went from 0-10 to 7-3. And a lot of it was because we simplified everything on offense and defense, focused on the fundamentals, rep that every day. We worked block reactions with our inside, outside linebackers and our defensive line every day. That was our focus, reacting to our blocks, aligning, fitting your gaps. That was our focus. And we were able to drop, instead of allowing nearly 500 points of offense, we dropped it just like 297. So we cut our points that we allowed in a little bit more than half. We dropped our rush yards by over 1,000. Our interceptions went from 0 to 18. I am a true believer, after being a coach for 7 years and a defensive coordinator for 2 years, simpler is better. You have to focus on the fundamentals. I've been on staffs where we've had 18 coverages and 4 different fronts. That doesn't work. You have to focus on the fundamentals, teach the same thing over and over again, and build off your system. As I said earlier, our blitz package builds off itself. We teach 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we expand from there. It's now 12, it's now 13. It all goes off each other. Same thing with our coverage. Technically, our trips adjustment is quarter, quarter, half. To our kids, it's just cover 3, because all they know is, okay, we're in cover 3. My rule tells me to read 3 to 2 if I get trips, instead of reading the 2s with my peripheral and the quarterback. Here's my contact information if you have any questions, ideas, if you just want to talk ball. My Twitter is @Coach Bandstra. I've recently started a YouTube channel. Just look my name, Nicholas Bandstra. My email is ndbandstra@gmail.com. Any questions, leave comments below on the page. I will happily answer anything. If you got any ideas how I could better do something, I'm all ears. I'm always looking to improve. I'm always looking for new drills, stuff that if I can replace with the current drill, because I want to keep my drills as minimal as possible, because again, my focus is fundamentals and keeping it simple. If you got something that I can do better and that teaches my kids the same thing, I'm all ears. And ending, I would like to thank Coach Albaugh and Chief Pigskin for the opportunity to speak at their online clinic. If you are not a member yet, or you know other coaches that are interested in our member, please have them sign up. It's a great resource for coaches. It's great for us to share and constantly learn. So thank you.